Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trip Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today I'm really excited to welcome Lindsey McCoy to the show. Lindsey is the founder of Plaine Products. Plaine Products is a hair and body products company dedicated to ridding the world of single use plastic bottles one bathroom at a time. And today I'm going to ask Lindsey a few questions about her entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that she has used to start and grow her business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks, Lindsey.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So let's get started. Can you share, what motivated you to start this very sustainability focused company?
Yeah, my background's actually in nonprofit management. When I was growing up, was in college, business wasn't considered the field that you went into when you wanted to do good in the world. That was more government or nonprofits. So I went into nonprofit and spent 20 years working for a variety of different nonprofits. Towards the end, I was living in the Bahamas, where my husband's from, and I got involved with an environmental nonprofit there and saw plastic all over the place as I, went to different places with scientists doing beach cleanups. And around that time was the first report that there could be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050. And seeing the plastic there, in a country that doesn't have the same infrastructure we have in the US to make things disappear when you throw them away, I started to understand how that could actually happen and trying to take steps in my life to use less plastic. And I could not find a solution for all of those plastic bottles in the shower. And around that same time, you start hearing more about social entrepreneurship and B Corps. And I thought maybe there's a reason, business could be a force for good. Maybe this is that opportunity. So decided to try and solve the problem from a business perspective. Saw, an opening in the market and took it.
Very interesting. So, you started out with the mission of, reducing the amount of plastic that is being used from a consumer product point of view. Did you do any research? Like, I'm sure when you started out, you thought about, what are all the different businesses or the different products that you can, pursue where you can make the biggest impact. So why, bathroom products or, these kind of products?
For me, it was just an area that wasn't being addressed. I mean, there's lots of people making reusable water bottles, reusable bags. I was looking for various solutions for my own life, and I couldn't find a product that was available at the time for the bathroom. And so that was, where I saw the opportunity because I looked pretty hard. I did try shampoo bars, and at the time, they didn't work for my hair. They do work for some people, but I thought, well, maybe if I can't find anything, there are others who can't find anything as well. And we started with shampoo and conditioner just because most people use them, every day or certainly a few times a week, as opposed to other products which are more seasonal. So we kind of picked some workhorse products to start out with.
And your products themselves, I believe you say they're vegan products. Can you share a little bit about, plastic bottles is one aspect of it, but I think your products themselves have some sort of a value add to it.
We didn't, want to create this environmental package that was reducing waste in the world and then put a bunch of chemicals in it that would just cause problems downstream. That was part of the research, again, into the company. I didn't realize how many chemicals are in a lot of mainstream products. There's some pretty harsh detergents. There's some, endocrine disruptors, some potentially cancer-causing ingredients. So as I learned more about it, I knew that we didn't want to include anything like that. And it turns out when you go with a product that's more natural, it also happens to be vegan, and we also are certified cruelty-free. So, we really fully embraced sustainability from every aspect. So the products are biodegradable. When they wash down the drain, they're not causing any problems downstream, as well as reducing waste in the world.
So did any of your experience, business is such, I guess, our entrepreneurship is kind of a different beast for, I guess, someone who hasn't worked in business or doesn't have experience starting a business, how did you was there something in your nonprofit work that kind of prepared you for this work, or can you share a little bit about how you transitioned into becoming an
Yeah, I
entrepreneur?
mean, really, I don't think there's as much differences as many people seem to think between the nonprofit world and the business world. Nonprofits are allowed to make money; they just can't distribute that money to shareholders. That's the main difference. So I had a background in finance from my years in the nonprofit world. I didn't have to fundraise or have events. We had a system that made money for us. So in some ways, business is more clear cut to me. And the way that we chose to market the products and the way we've chosen to operate is more kind of aligned with nonprofits. I mean, we have developed a lot of partnerships with other sustainable businesses. We've worked with a lot of influencers in the space. We take customer service very seriously, much like you would treat donors of a nonprofit. So it's in my mind translated very well from one to the other.
Okay. And so can you share, like, at the beginning, so you had this idea and you wanted to create vegan products, like where did you start? Did you contact manufacturers and you commissioned them to create some sort of a vegan shampoo
No,
product?
we were a shoestring startup, so we self-funded. So we didn't have the capital to create our own products, so we had to find things off the shelf. So we did a ton of research on existing packaging. We looked at stainless steel, we looked at glass, we ended up on aluminum, and we researched manufacturers that had, a product that we could, as they say, white label. So something in a formula that already existed that we were able to tweak a little bit, but didn't have to pay R&D costs on. So, we went as off the shelf as we could because that was the budget.
And basically, so you took that idea, and so do you consider your company to be mostly a marketing and branding company? Like, so
I actually look at us as more of a distribution and bottle washing company. So we don't manufacture. We kind of pull everything together and then distribute, sell the shampoo, and then bring the bottles back and wash them. So that is really kind of our product differentiator, is that taking responsibility for our packaging and reusing it.
how do you bring the bottle back? So bottles are aluminum, and you
Bottles are
basically.
aluminum. So when somebody orders a product from our website, plaineproducts.com, we send the bottle and we send a pump. And then we encourage them to come back to the website or subscribe. And we send just a refill bottle, not an additional pump. And we send along a return label with that refill bottle. So they, when they're ready, switch the pump over to the refill and then put the empty bottle in the box the refill came in. Put the label on the outside, and it comes back to us for free. And then we wash, refill, and reuse them.
Wow, so that's kind of like an additional cost for you. Who's paying for the return label?
We pay for the return labels, and we've built that into our model. We don't have to buy another round of bottles, so we just built that cost in.
Okay, and so since you've been working with this thing for some time now, and you're trying to replace the plastic bottles. Have you find, like, is there anything out there that is kind of a replacement for plastic, or nobody has come up with anything yet?
I mean, a lot of people are working on it. Plastic is an amazing material for any number of things. I just don't think it's a good fit for something that we use once and throw away. One of its main benefits is that it lasts forever. Yeah. So for things, cars, larger products, furniture, there are plenty of things for which plastic is. Medical equipment is a great fit. So we have turned to, aluminum as something that not only is sturdy enough and safe enough to reuse multiple times, but then when it is recycled, can just be turned back into more aluminum. Unfortunately, when plastic's recycled, it's melted down and the chemical makeup changes a little bit. It can only usually be recycled once or twice before it gets thrown away anyway. So while it's great to recycle it, eventually all of that plastic is still going to end up in a landfill somewhere or an incinerator or causing problems in the environment. So, the great thing about metal is that it never needs to be thrown away. You can just keep reusing it and then recycling it.
So So you bootstrapped the company. You basically started with your own investment. Can you share a little bit, what kind of investment went into the business at the beginning? Um, how much product did you have to buy? Because a lot of the times manufacturers have like minimum order quantities and things like that.
We bought
And
as little as we could. So my sister and I started the business together. We pooled resources. We had both recently sold houses and moved to. I moved from the Bahamas to the States. She moved from Colorado to Ohio. So both had made some money on houses, and started with shampoo, conditioner, and body wash in 1 cent, and purchased 1,200 bottles for each of those products, and that's how much product we purchased. And then we just grew from there. So, as we made money, we purchased more, and grew slowly but steadily over the last.
so it seems like, I mean, both you and your sister definitely took a certain amount of risk.
Oh, for
Where
sure. Yes, definitely.
you put your own money.
Mhm.
Was it completely for the cause, or did you know that if you created a product like this, there would be demand and you'd be able to profitably sell it?
Yeah, I mean, both. It was for the cause, but in doing research and in talking to people, I definitely felt like there was desire in the market for more sustainable products, and that happily has proven true. We're still definitely a niche brand, but I think more and more awareness, around climate change, around plastic pollution is increasing. Not from us, but just in the mainstream, and so it is. Our timing was great. I think had we maybe launched a few years earlier, it probably would not have gone as well. But we have, you know, grown, and awareness has changed as we've been growing. So we've definitely benefited from more attention to these issues.
And do you have competition in the market? I know in the sustainable, like in e-commerce and businesses in general, and also the consumers are more sustainable, or more sustainability conscious now. There are a lot more businesses that are doing, or pretty much, I mean, these days, most businesses are doing something to at least have that, public facing thing to say, that they're doing something to support sustainability. I'm sure there's a lot of other companies also that are, creating shampoos and these kind of products more in a sustainable way or in sustainable packaging. Um, do you have any direct competitors who are using, your own business model, or do you feel like, there are other companies out there that can impact the revenue of your business?
You know, it's interesting being a sustainable business. You want to cheer when other people are doing something similar to you as a mission-based company. We are seeing more people move towards aluminum and metal packaging and moving away from plastic for sure. We're not seeing a lot of people then taking them back. I think the only system that I know that I'm aware of is a conglomerate called Loop that's working with a number of brands. We are also a partner brand with them that is taking containers back and washing them and using them. But most independent brands are not doing that yet. They're just sort of experimenting with more sustainable packaging. And we actually would love to see more people doing it. I mean, that is competition that I would welcome, because I think it also lends credibility to the model. And we're going to need infrastructure to do this properly, and you need volume to have infrastructure. So, while part of the business, I think, is, you never like to see competition overall for the mission, more people doing it is a good thing.
So what kind of infrastructure do you think you need in order to scale this business?
Very simple. I mean, bottle washing. It would be
Okay.
great to be shipping things around the country less for carbon reasons and cost. So I think as more brands, experiment and try reuse, it would enable us to lower the cost of it, and that volume would enable, to have sites around the country. Take the Amazon model, but use it for reuse purposes. So, things stay more localized. You don't have to move things all over the country. You can centralize, and do bulk shipments instead of just individual bottles moving around.
In terms of getting your first customer, so you got your product, how did you just create an e-commerce website and you started getting orders? How did you promote your business in the beginning so you started getting your first few customers?
Yeah, well, we did created a website, and then as I mentioned, we learned a lot from sort of at the time, bloggers before influencers or influencers, but people with Facebook and Instagram and pages, but that we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about clean beauty, talking about zero waste, talking about vegan beauty, and we were asking advice from them as we were getting started. And so once we were started, we said, hey, would you be willing to try this out and let people know what you think about the model and the products? And happily, they liked both of them. So that was really, how we got started was word of mouth and then working with influencers in the space.
Was there a certain point where you went from, okay, this is an experimental business, to, okay, yes, this is working, and that gave you more confidence?
I think the first I remember it was about 2 weeks in that the first person I didn't know purchased a product. We would sort
Okay.
of check every day. Oh, I know him, or indirectly I know this person, or I met this person before, and then we're like, the first person that neither one of us knew purchased a product, like found us and bought something, was a very exciting day. And I think as that grew and strangers were buying things and then coming back for refills, I think that's when we knew we had something.
What are all the sales channels that you're selling from right now?
So we started as a direct-to-consumer website, and really designed the bottles that way. We actually we made some calls about wholesale and didn't really have any luck. But then we actually had companies or retail stores coming to us because they wanted to offer an alternative packaging in their store. So we ended up having to redesign the bottles to say something about reuse on the bottle if they were going to be sitting on a shelf as opposed to just coming from our website. So we did move into wholesale. It represents about 20 to 25% now of our sales. And then in 2020, we added 3.5 gallon bucket, a bulk option for refill shops that are popping up around the US. So people that want to bring their own containers in and refill them themselves. So that became a third. It's a wholesale model, but a third different way of selling the product.
Okay. So you're not selling on Amazon or any of the other
We are selling on.
marketplaces?
We sell some of our stuff, not everything, but we do sell some products on Amazon more as a discovery tool, as opposed to being reliant on it to sell all of our things. We work with a few other e-commerce sites as well that are more specific to sustainability, and then about 200 brick and mortar shops.
In terms of marketing your business right now, what are all the different marketing channels that you're using, and what is kind of working the best for you?
We continue to use social media a lot, although I would say that Facebook and Instagram are getting harder and harder than they were 5 years ago when we started, and even maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think there's more sustainable products, and I think just in general, it's more crowded as influencers have become more popular. So we're exploring other channels, TikTok, Pinterest, maybe Reddit, trying to diversify that. We have spent a lot of time on SEO. So we, actively work on making sure that we have fresh blogs up and that we're featured on other magazines and other blogs and doing partnerships in that way. I mean, our goal is just if somebody's looking for a sustainable shampoo, that we show up in the search. Because we're certainly not going to be able to afford to get in front of everybody to let them know about us. But if they're looking for something like us, we just want to make sure that we appear.
And that's really search engine optimization, or that also means like Google Ads?
We do use some Google Ads. We actually had to defensively start buying them. Other people, we didn't for a long time, but then we realized that other people were buying our name. So we did have to move into that. But we were relying on organic until that point.
Can you share a little bit about, how you warehouse your products now, and what is your general fulfillment shipping strategy? I know it's kind of a tricky subject, and even more so for you because now you have to build your, I guess, the cost of recycling or bringing the the bottles to you. Can you share like what was the thought process behind that and how your
Sure.
warehouse
So,
is shipped?
again, started on a shoestring in my sister's garage. We decided to do our own fulfillment because we didn't want to, again, create this, sustainable system and then throw it in a box with a bunch of plastic bags and stick plastic tape on it. So we were very clear that we wanted to, build a box to protect the bottles, that we wanted to use paper tape, that we didn't want to put a bunch of fill in. We wanted to have something kind of custom designed for it. So we were able to work towards that early on. And so we were doing all of our own fulfillment, which I think is unusual for a business of our size, but it gave us the ability to be very responsive, ship quickly, pull an order if we had to. And when we looked about 2 years ago about switching over to a fulfillment center, we actually, our situation was more, was a better cost for us to stay in-house.
Okay.
Because we do take, we regardless, we need some staff to help take the bottles back and process those bottles. Since we already had that operation going, it made sense to just keep the fulfillment in-house as well.
So I see, you're probably in your home office, like is your main warehouse and, this whole facility of recycling the bottle and so forth, is it like a separate thing or like how do
It
you
is.
manage
So
that?
we're a little unusual in that, as I mentioned, I started this with my sister. When I moved back to the US, my Bahamian husband did not want to move to the Midwest in Cincinnati, Ohio, where she is. So I'm on the coast of North Carolina. We started in her garage in 2020. We bought an abandoned building, and happily my brother-in-law was, has been a contractor. So he helped us fix it up, and we rehabilitated an old building and turned that into a warehouse and moved out of, we had rented some space in the interim, but we turned that into our warehouse and bottle washing. And then everybody who doesn't work in the warehouse is remote and has been since we started, since I'm remote. So our team's about half and half are in Cincinnati, working in the warehouse. And then we have, another 10 people that are all remote and that work around the country. Well, around the US and one in Canada.
So you have about 20 people right now then.
We do.
Well, that's a pretty big, pretty decent amount of team.
And they're not all full-time, but one of the things that we have done very well is attract people by offering what everybody's enjoying now post-pandemic. A flexible hours and the ability to work from home. And so we were able to, attract some probably talents that, more than we deserved, but has benefited us.
And all your marketing is in-house, or do you work with like an advertising agency or marketing agency?
The main contracting we have done with agencies has been on social ad placement, both for Google and Facebook, just because it gets trickier all the time. Things change quickly, and it's very easy to throw a lot of money down a dark hole. So we have worked with a few different agencies around that, but all of the creative we do in-house.
So it almost seems like a regular person or a solopreneur cannot do their own advertising because it has become so complex and technical and so many nuances, so much competition.
I would think it would take a very specialized person to be able to do that on their own. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, but they are making it more. It's kind of like taxes. If you're trying to do maybe one simple thing and you can do the easy form, but no, the more sophisticated you are, the better, the further your money goes. And that really requires somebody who knows what they're doing and can be very surgical with it. It's very easy to spend a lot of money without much results unless you know what you're doing and who you're looking for online.
Yeah. And, because I talk to a lot of founders like yourself, it's almost like there's two categories of founders. One category is more of the conventional, who hires an agency or, spending on ads. And then I find other category of entrepreneurs who have some way been able to leverage social media, like just the organic social media. They can create like TikTok posts and go have like millions of views. And it's almost like, their personality is suited for those kind of things, and they're able to drive a lot of traffic and drive sales through that means without spending much on advertising at all.
I mean, I would say we're kind of the maybe a third version of that. I would say certainly our growth has been much more organic based, but it has not been on the back of my personality. I think it's been on the back of having a good story to tell and an actual problem to solve, that provides for good stories that other people tell about us, and reasons why people like us, and something different to say about the product.
And I went on your TikTok channel, and I believe it was someone, the face of TikTok is someone else for your company. Can you share a little bit, how you're doing it?
You will find me on there a few times, but certainly we have a social team, and certainly there are people on that team who are much more talented than I am at TikTok, and who enjoy it a lot more than I do. So my sister and I are on there some, I'm on there some, but yes, a lot of our team. And then we also, again, feature a lot of our customers and influencers that we work with, because we think people want to hear what others have to say about the product and why they're choosing to use the product. So as I said, our growth is certainly not on the force of my personality, but more what other people have to say about it, which is a good thing.
Now, I did read somewhere that your platform, you're using WooCommerce. Is that correct?
We are using Woocommerce. I know that makes us a little bit different, that we're not on Shopify.
Yeah, that was my question. Do you have any plans of moving to Shopify, or you're completely satisfied?
Again, it's interesting. We started working with a friend. I had some WooCommerce experience with some of the groups I'd worked with. He had WooCommerce experience. So it was Shopify really wasn't what it is now when we were getting started 60 years ago. Certainly we're keeping an eye on it. It's like anything else. Once you go pretty far down a road, sometimes it's hard to switch horses. So they have a lot of really slick things that they have designed for it. I'm certainly jealous of some of our competitors' websites and functionality. So, it continues to be an open question. But
so
we appreciate, I will say though, but what pushed us to WooCommerce, and what my web guy keeps telling me, there's a lot more flexibility, and some of the things that we do with the, not sending the pump a second time, or adding in the return label, or, some variety that we do would be harder on a Shopify template than it is in WooCommerce. We have a little bit more flexibility to mix and match a little bit more, and sort of shape the product to what nobody else was taking back when we started, and still very few people are. So all of that is hard to do on a template.
Okay. So while sustainability is a great cause, I'm sure, and there are people who care about sustainability a lot. I'm sure not everybody is, buying sustainable products. Can you share a little bit about your customers? What are like the general characteristics of the kind of people who buy from you, and the messaging that you send out through your website, marketing, advertising? How does that connect with that target market?
Sure. I do think you're right. Not everybody cares about sustainability. I also think that for a sustainable product to be successful, it has to work. I think that environmental products, got a bad rap in the 90s and early 2000s because they just weren't high quality. They just didn't measure up. I would say that our products are still on quality, that I would stack them up against any other product. So, our message is complicated because we certainly talk about our packaging. We also talk about our products and the fact that they are safe for the entire family, that they're not going to cause any problems downstream. They are natural ingredients. They're aloe-based instead of water-based. So super dense and nutrient rich, and they do a good job. So, we certainly have people that are there for the packaging, but I think then we also have people that are there because, they trust us. They feel they like the ingredient list. We're pretty transparent. We answer a lot of questions. We have a very active customer service team. and then we engage with people on social media too as they ask questions. I mean, pretty much if you see a comment anywhere on any of our channels, there's a response to it. Or if somebody sends us a message, we get back to them. So I think that has really helped as well.
Okay. In every founder's journey, entrepreneur's journey, there's always, some mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. Can you share, maybe, since you started this entrepreneurial journey, what are like one or two big mistakes or failures that come to your mind? What did you learn from them, and what can other entrepreneurs learn from them?
Oh gosh, lots. Um, um, we originally ordered stainless steel jars, not aluminum, and a lot of, the same amount, 3,000 from China, and we got them, and then they rusted. So, we didn't do enough testing up front. We didn't ask enough questions. We should have been a little bit more patient when we did get something, to wait it out a little bit longer and see how it turned out. So that was a very expensive, big mistake early on. I think exactly what we were talking about around advertising. I think that I thought that I could figure it out, and I learned very quickly that I would need to do nothing else. And so we definitely wasted some money on some advertising. And certainly also wasted some money partnering with influencers who we were, dazzled by how many followers they had, but they were not a good fit for us. So, just because somebody has a few million followers doesn't mean that their followers care about your message. So learn that, that it doesn't matter how big they are. What really matters is, what their followers care about and why they're following them. I mean, lots of small and big decisions along the way, managing inventory carefully, building capacity to grow, adding we added some we were suggested to add some customer service software. I didn't think we needed it. A friend finally said, "You really do." And it was too much at first. And then I don't know how we live without it. Just to help us keep organized. So sometimes you do have to kind of make those jumps to build up your capacity before you're ready, but then you're grateful that you did.
Are you, I mean, seems like you had a poor experience working with Chinese suppliers. Are you still working with China, or did you?
Well, we went to a distributor instead of trying to do it ourselves after that first experience. And then once we had a higher minimum order quantity, we did switch over to the US, mainly, just so we didn't have to worry about the shipping and the time, to cut that a little bit. And just, again, those closer relationships for us that were more manageable.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire round. And in this round, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in one word or two word, or one sentence.
Okay.
A book recommendation that you would give to entrepreneurs or business professionals in 2022, and why?
Yeah, I would recommend the Lean Product Playbook, and by Eric Ries. I'm happy to talk about why, but I don't want to mess up your rapid fire questions.
No, please go ahead. Share.
No, I mean, it talks about sort of getting a product out into the environment and then testing it. So not waiting until you have the perfect product, but what is the minimally viable product that you can get out to get feedback? And I think it's important to listen to customers, and I think it's important to not have something in your head that can never be changed, but be willing to evolve and learn as you go.
An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
I'm excited by the toothpaste bites. It's a completely different take on toothpaste. Instead of it in the tube, there's little tablets that you kind of crunch and then add water, and they foam up in your mouth. But I think it's just an innovative solution to a tricky packaging problem that I'd love to see it, love and watch it grow.
Well, is that based on sustainability also? So, you
It
don't have
is.
like
So, I mean,
plastic.
toothpaste tubes are almost impossible to recycle because they're such mixed materials.
Yeah.
And then, some of the toothpaste, they don't want you to swallow it because there's stuff in it you shouldn't have in your body, which seems concerning to me since you're still putting it in your mouth. So
Yeah.
it's both a health and a sustainability. They're able to package it in reusable metal tins and put some different products into it just because it's not the same squeezable requirement that it is in a tube.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or productivity tip? I know you were talking about the customer service tool.
Yeah, so we use Help Scout for customer service, but a lot of them are good, especially with a remote team, to be able to keep track of who has and hasn't been helped and what the history is. We use Slack again as a remote team just to kind of stay in touch. Um, those are probably the two that we use the most.
A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things.
I'm sorry, that I what?
That is currently doing great things. A startup or business.
Um, there are a lot doing great things. Some of I mean, again, I favor sustainability companies. But who do I like? There's too many. Sorry, you can edit this down, right? There are a lot of clothing companies that are doing great work and are starting to take clothes back. The Poshmark and ThreadUp that are now you can buy, used and vintage clothing online. So you still get to shop, but you can shop for used clothes. I think those are very exciting.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you, or like a mentor kind of a person.
Um, it is interesting to me in the sustainability world. There are a lot of other women founders, which I don't think is true in the startup world in general, but certainly seems to be true in this niche that I'm in. There is a group of women B Corp CEOs that we all are on a listserv together, and I am continually impressed by not only the success they're having with their company, but how much they live their values. So the B Corp seal, which is a tough thing to do. You're graded on your care for the environment, your care for your employees, your governance, a ton of different things, and you have to get an 80 or higher on that scale. Every person that I've worked with through B Corp has just been super impressive to me.
So B Corp is an organization, or
it is. It's the I think they're B Lab maybe is their website, but they are a certification organization and it's worldwide.
Okay.
And you can voluntarily go through kind of an assessment, but then once you've been in business for a year, you can properly be assessed, and they grade you, like I said, on everything, and you have to provide, information to back up all of your claims.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly helpful for me as a startup to go through that assessment and say, oh, these are all the things I should be doing, and I should be counting, and I should be aware of, and I should be putting in place. Different policies that they recommend you have, employee handbooks, governance, waste management, tracking, all of these pieces. It was like, a little mini MBA for me to go through their assessment. And continually, every 3 years, you have to be reassessed. And so I always know, okay, well, as I'm making this choice, and in 2 years, I'm going to have to answer to B Corp about why I did this, or what my justification was, or how this is going to affect my score. And it's very helpful to me.
So it's almost like, it's kind of like you want to be in this exclusive group, and you have to do certain things to be part of that group.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, if you see a B Corp logo, that's a real deal. I mean, there are a lot of companies, as you said, out there that are at least talking about sustainability or trying to pretend like they're doing it. And it's not just sustainability. I mean, these groups are also proving that they're treating their employees well, that they're paying a living wage, that they, are keeping an eye on their manufacturing. So it's a really holistic certification.
Okay. And final question, best business advice you ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I think the best advice is, patience, patience and persistence. I mean, things take longer than you want, but you have to keep working at them. Don't, give up at the first sign of a problem, because there's going to be a lot of problems, a lot of stumbling blocks. So stick with it. Don't sit back and wait for it. I mean, be actively persistent, but you also have to be a little bit patient and be kind to yourself. You're going to make mistakes. Nobody can know everything. And as long as you learn from those mistakes, it's okay.
And what is next for you? Is this going to be your life's work? Is that you're planning to do it long term?
Great question. I'm very interested right now in what we were talking about earlier, kind of that infrastructure piece and how to support other brands who are interested in doing this, and make it more viable and a large scale. As I said, I think we are kind of a niche product at this point, partially because of the price point, and that price point is partially due to the fact that there isn't an infrastructure. We're creating this all by ourselves, and that makes for higher cost and no economies of scale. So I'm very interested in that larger piece of how do we move more people in this direction, and how do we make it a part of daily consumption. So I don't know that Plaine products will necessarily be my life's work, but I do hope that maybe being a part of, changing consumer habits could be.
Okay, well, those were all the questions I had. Lindsey, really, really appreciate your time today. For sharing your story, your startup story, and also some of the decisions you've made in your business, some of the strategies and tactics and advice for other entrepreneurs. So really, really appreciate your time today. And thank you again for joining me.
I hope it was helpful. Thanks. Thank you for talking
Thank
to
you.
me.
Thank you so much.